Welcome back to the Bible Stories series. The book we are reading today might make many people want to drop the show, because it starts with 9 solid chapters of dense, endless lists of names. You might ask, why do I need to know who begot whom thousands of years ago? But imagine this, the original readers of this book were a group of Israelites who had just been released from the Babylonian POW camps and returned to their homeland. Their nation was destroyed, their temple was in ruins, and their family trees were in chaos. They were in the midst of a severe identity crisis, not knowing who they were anymore. This list of names was like a long-lost map to their roots. The author started from the very first human, Adam, traced the line all the way to David, and then down to their current generation. This was a way of telling these orphans, you are not abandoned refugees, you are part of God's grand history. Behind these dry names lies God's unbroken faithfulness over thousands of years. After the genealogies, the camera pans to our familiar protagonist, King David. But if you have a sharp eye, you'll notice that the David in Chronicles has become a good boy. This book makes absolutely no mention of his adultery with Bathsheba, nor does it bring up the family scandal of his son Absalom's rebellion. Is the author trying to cover up the truth? No, because everyone already knew those stories. The author's goal was to rebuild faith. He deliberately focused on the side of David that was after God's own heart, how he unified Israel, how he brought the Ark of the Covenant back, and his reverence for God. For these people who were rebuilding their homeland, they didn't need past gossip and scandals. They needed a model of a perfect king to show them what the blueprint for national revival should look like. Chronicles places a heavy emphasis on worship. The book dedicates a lot of space to describing how David brought the Ark of the Covenant back to Jerusalem. But an incident happened along the way. During the transport, the oxen pulling the cart stumbled. A man named Uah reached out to steady the ark, and as a result, he was struck dead on the spot. This seems cruel, but it gave David and the people a shocking lesson: God is holy. You cannot treat him casually using methods that humans find convenient, like pulling the ark on an ox cart. It must be done according to God's rules, carried by the Levites. David learned his lesson. During the second attempt, he strictly followed the law, having the priests carry it, and organized a massive orchestra and choir. This time, it was filled with joy and peace. This taught the returning exiles, the first step to revival is having a heart of reverence for God. The greatest dream of David's life was to build a temple for God. He lived in a palace of cedar, yet God's Ark of the Covenant was still in a tent, which made him feel uneasy. But God rejected his request. The reason was quite specific: you have fought many wars and shed much blood. You are not to build a house for my name. This was a massive blow to David. But he didn't sulk, and he didn't give up. His reaction showed what true leadership looks like. He essentially said, all right, even though I cannot build it, I can prepare everything for my son. The second half of Chronicles is almost entirely about this, how David became the ultimate logistics manager. Since he couldn't build it with his own hands, he gathered materials frantically: gold, silver, bronze, and iron beyond calculation, and cedar logs piled as high as mountains. He even drew up the architectural blueprints for the temple, and clearly planned out what songs the choirs would sing and how the priests would be scheduled. David said to his young successor, Solomon, my son, I have taken the trouble to provide all this for the temple of the Lord. Be strong and courageous, and do the work. This is the noble sentiment of success doesn't have to be mine. Although David never laid a single brick with his own hands, the entire temple was truly the product of his heart and soul. At the end of the book, David held a nationwide fundraising campaign. Infected by the king's passion, the people brought out their gold, silver, and jewels to offer. The Bible says they gave willingly and wholeheartedly. Watching all this, the white-haired David offered one of the most moving prayers in the Bible. Yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor. But who am I, and who are my people, that we should be able to give as generously as this? Everything comes from you, and we have given you only what comes from your hand. The final image of David in his lifetime is not that of a killer on the battlefield, but of a humble worshipper. He passed away in peace, handing over a kingdom that was ready to take off to Solomon.